Good evening, YouTube world. Thank you for tuning in to WDLT News. I hope you all are doing well. I'm going to begin with part two of a two-part series entitled Quiet Quitting. Now, the second article that I read comes from a teacher who began her quiet quitting in 2018 and ultimately quit her teaching job in 2022. Now, here are the 3 steps that she's mentioned along her journey of quiet quitting. First is start slow and prioritize what must get done to keep your job. Second, quiet quitting doesn't have to mean you're no longer engaged in your job. And her third point, sometimes going above and beyond is the path to burnout. Now, I don't disagree with any of those 3 steps. I think this is in stark contrast to the first article that I read, and which I mentioned in part one, which if you haven't already watched, please go back and watch part one. Now I want to expound on each of the 3 points that she mentioned within this article. First one being start slow and prioritize what must get done to keep your job. Now that's something that we all should be doing, no matter the job that start slow and prioritize what must get done to keep your job. I think that's a fair point. I think if we are beginning to or thinking about transitioning into a second career, we definitely want to start slow and prioritize what must get done in order for us to keep our current job. Because I can assure you, it's easier to find a new job when you already have one. You don't want to put yourself in a position to where now you've lost your current employment. Because if you're looking for a job, because if you no longer have income coming in, you may get to a point to where you're desperate. And when we're in a position of desperation, we're not always thinking clearly, and we may jump at the first opportunity for employment, and then we can find ourselves right back in the same situation that we were in. You definitely don't want to jump from a sinking boat onto a boat that's also sinking. Now, the second point, quiet quitting doesn't have to mean you're no longer engaged in your job. Now, that second point can be a little difficult for some people to make the distinction. Now, what I mean by that is sometimes doing less, possibly, not mediocre. We don't want to lower the value or the performance or the abilities that we are exercising to do our job. Doing less for some people may translate to no longer being engaged with your job. And if you're no longer engaged in what it is that you do, it's just a matter of time before your performance starts to suffer. Now, the third point, sometimes going above and beyond is the path to burnout. I agree with that. As an entrepreneur, I was also in a position to where I was actually overextending myself with the business. And what I mean by that is there was no clear line in the sand between my personal time and the business time. I looked at the business first. I put the business first before myself. So all of the time, energy, and effort that I could put forth towards my business, I did so without hesitation. And I can tell you, I was speeding into a brick wall and I crashed. And I was at a place where I no longer wanted to even be in business anymore. Now, thinking about this from an employee standpoint, absolutely. If you are going above and beyond without any recognition from your employer, one, and two, without any recognition of self, you will burn out. And that causes some people to just quit. That's a problem. That means that the stresses and anxieties of that position that you are currently working have become so overwhelming that you just want to run away. There were signs along the way that ultimately led to that moment that we all miss sometimes. And there's that going above and beyond. Going above and beyond does not mean that I have to sacrifice my own time. I don't have to give up more of myself. What we can do is increase our level of service, increase the value that you are giving to that particular position, but not sacrificing who you are in your own personal time. There has to be a line in the sand between your time and what you are doing for your job and or career. That line has to be firm, bold. It cannot be crossed at any point between yourself in this job and or your career. So I think this second article for me is did a much better job of explaining quiet quitting. And because initially for me it sounded like a very bad thing, a very dangerous thing, especially for our younger generation. But I think it's something that can be considered for the right person. I don't believe that this level of thinking, this idea of quiet quitting is a one size fits all. I don't believe that it will work for everyone, but I think there may be some people that if they apply more of these three things that were mentioned in this article and go about it in a way that is still responsible and still accountable and still respectful to yourself first and to that current job before you make that transition, I think this is something that can work. And again, thank you all for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Continue to inspire and motivate each other. I will continue to do my best to bring you all great content. Thank you again for watching. Bye.